Okay, now we are counting down to pre-open, and the SGX Nifty is still indicating a very minor downtick of 0.2 or a ¼ %. Considering the redness in the Asian screen, we can take it with both hands. But let's see if we are getting away with minor injuries. All right, actually the first tick is a green tick, and that is, although it's albeit minor, it's flat. Now the Sensex is running up a wee bit, up about 0.4, but let's see if it's able to sustain. The Nifty itself is up just about 0.1 and climbing. We should get the rupee rate shortly. It's 69.72, so it's not moved much. Despite the steep fall in crude prices, I think rupee is fairly stationary. If anything, it's a little weak, giving an indication, as both Mitesh and Irene Chung were pointing out, that 69.70 can actually be a resistance level for the rupee and a support for the dollar. So rupee opening at 69.70.72, pretty much unchanged. Okay, now going to 69.87. So clearly there's weakness. The global weakness is hurting. So we should see it maybe in the equity markets as well. No, we're not seeing it. The indices are still strong, or at least in the green. Not by a whole lot, but in the green. Bharti Airtel is the one that's up 1.5. Tata Motors, Tech Mahindra. I mean, look at that. Tech Mahindra is up about 1.3. Indiabulls Housing 1.3. Yes Bank about 0.6. So what's in the red? In the red is IOC. It's a strange.
Maybe some profit taking, right? After the big moves that we've seen, IOC, HPCL, BPCL were one of the big gainers
Absolutely.
Yesterday. So I guess people would want to take profits. Also, crude has moved up a tad bit this morning, so $55 plus. So let's see which way things go. For now, it's not a bad outcome. It's flat for the index. There's still green on the screen. So that outperformance that India has been seeing continues, perhaps. At least that's what the initial tick is suggesting. Couple of more stocks. Maruti Suzuki is making a bit of a comeback. It fell 1.5% yesterday after the company slashed down its growth targets. But there's a bit of a revival that you're seeing there. And Yes Bank, it has been one of the strongest stocks this month, an 11% up move. It continues to trade in the green. SP Tulsian of sptulsian.com joins in now to talk about all things related to the market and, of course, individual stocks as well. Mr. Tulsian, hi, good morning. I wanted to ask you about Jet Airways, because there was that long board meeting yesterday which resulted in nothing actually. No strategic investor on board, no talks with Tata Sons, no deal, etc. Do you think investors' patience is going to run out, or would you still be optimistic here?
See, Sonia, two things. When we have seen such a big or marathon meeting having taken place for a very long time, it won't be, the management will not reveal that what all has transpired on if nothing has been concretized. So I am quite hopeful, because the aviation sector fortunes are seen to be changing. You have a very limited player. We just have 3 players in the space, that is Indigo, SpiceJet and Jet. So obviously the interest of the acquirer will be seen coming in, and Jet management is seen to be making all their efforts. And it reminds me of the share, having fell to a low of 170 and moved to 340 in maybe a couple of months, about 3 months back. So this kind of intensity we see when the news flows comes in. So maybe all the negatives seem to be there in the price. I'm not worried as an investor. If you want to play as a trader, you may not be able to face the volatility. But now, taking all this into consideration, it indicates, or it looks like, that the share is ruling at a lower end of its valuation. And I'm hopeful that something will get materialized. Either the Etihad will increase the stake, or some new suitors will come to show the interest in buying the Naresh Goyal's stake.
Okay. Well, at the moment, the markets are still holding on to the green. Only by a touch. It's 0.1 up or 10 points up. But, I mean, given the global backdrop, and I think we should pull up the Asian indices, they are, I think, not as bad, but there is still red all over in Asia. The Asian indices should come up for you. Yesterday's winners, Ujjivan is seeing a little bit of profit taking at this point in time. But among the banks, it's Central Bank, IOB, Syndicate, which are doing well. PNB. Mr. Tulsian, I wanted to ask you about PNB. That was a surprise candidate. The finance minister said yesterday that it will be rewarded with more capital, so that it is kept out of the prompt corrective action list. Any thoughts on that stock?
See, Lata, the things are, in fact, many developments are seen happening on the PNB front, but nothing is getting crystallized. Just like maybe the stake sale in PNB Housing, monetization of the land assets or the real estate assets of about 2,000 crore. maybe fetching 33% monetization with PNB housing, but nothing is seen happening. So probably, maybe not to delay these things, government rightly must have thought that to give some capital or to infuse some capital in PNB as well, which will be seen positive. So overall, I think it will be seen positive, and naturally some kind of expeditious move will also be taken by PNB in regard to monetization and the recovery process going forward.
Okay, well, Sanjeev, I didn't forget that you mentioned Indiabulls housing finance as one of your top ideas, and it is the last time we spoke, that is, and it is the top monthly gainer, 20% higher. So from the large caps, if you're looking at one stock to buy into for the month of January, from the Nifty stocks, that is, which one would it be?
Well, there'll be two names, L&T and Eicher Motor. I think they are both headed up, and maybe almost 5 to 7%. They moved very smartly. But we have L&T and Eicher Motor where we are very, very positive, and we think in the large cap those can outperform.
Actually, it slipped my mind to ask the technical experts as well about Satin Credit Care. We all talk about Indiabulls and Yes Bank and all gaining a lot. You must pull up Satin Credit Care's chart. It's one of the biggest gainers actually in the NBFC space. It's up 33% this month, in the month of December. Ashwini, you look at that chart at all?
See, basically, all mid caps have run up. So, first thing is cost of capital turn. So that is number one issue here. But nobody was interested in the stock, I think 3 days back. And now suddenly a bit of money comes in and you find these sort of moves. But because NBFCs are going through a largish pullback, I wouldn't be surprised if you see 330 to 350 on the stock fairly soon.
Okay, well, that's the dollar rupee still below that 70 mark. So the appreciation that we've seen, at least it's largely held, the appreciation in the rupee. And let's talk about Brent as well, because $55 a barrel now. It has seen a bit of an up move, but largely it's been on a downtrend. Manisha is here to give us a quick roundup of all the action that we've seen in the commodity markets overnight. Hi Manisha, good morning.
Morning Sonia, thank you so much for that. Yes, can't have enough of crude oil prices. The way it's been moving, we saw 5% decline overnight, and it's trading nearly a percentage point and more on the higher side in the Asian markets right now. Well, the reasons for the pressure, of course, has been oversupply, demand concerns, and we also have seen a build-up continue in case of the US and the global inventories as a whole. If you look at the Indian import for the month of November, that has been the lowest in 4 years, year-on-year basis. So all those theories about how the Asian and the European demand has been declining is quite evident in the kind of numbers that we are seeing, not just from India, but from China and much of Europe as well. And that, of course, is a bit of a concern. The reason that you have seen the prices surge a bit is after the OPEC statement, which says that the OPEC and the members might need to cut 3.02% in sense of output instead of 2.5% that had been discussed earlier, to ensure that 1.2 million barrels per day is out of the global supplies starting 1st of January. So this is something that clearly has been a bit of a support. But when you look at the numbers, really, we have seen open interest continue to decline. The volumes have been on the weaker side. And we will continue to hear a lot of statements, data until we hit that year end. And the prices are supposed to be or expected to be very, very volatile.
Okay. At the moment, it does look like it's going to be a flattish start. Now the Nifty's dipped into the red, but just by 7 points. Not much. Nifty Bank down 13. So again, you're seeing fair amount of strength. Mr. Tulsan, would you buy Bank of India?
Yes, Lata. Bank of India is seen to be the top pick amongst the PCA list. If you really want to play on, because that is seen to be the biggest beneficiary and likely of coming out of the PCA list as well.
Okay. Yeah, actually, it was a stronger candidate and has the least net NPA among the PCA banks, about a little over 7%, but declining. Sanjeev, I wanted to ask you also about the IT companies. We just spoke with Mindtree. You may have heard that conversation. The rupee is not their best friend at the moment, but generally, how would you approach that space?
Well, we would avoid IT. We think the valuations are fairly stretched. Earnings are going to be lukewarm, and the rupee, which was a tailwind, is now a headwind. Anyway, they don't have too much of a proxy on anything on the rupee because they're all well hedged. And you'd rather play it through the beta route. You know, you are looking at financials, bank, construction, capital goods, metals. All those can give you a huge amount of delta on the upside. The only caveat here being that you will see a roadblock closer to the election, but we think the next 3 months are going to be the sweetest we've seen in a long time. So if Nifty is going to 11,400, then definitely it will be the high beta trades which will make more money rather than IT.
Okay, well for now, let's just take stock of where the pre-opening rates have settled. Absolutely flat, which is a great thing for the bulls considering the volatile global markets. Mid-caps are actually in the green, up almost about 2%, 0.2%, I beg your pardon. And Bharti Airtel is the big Nifty gainer on the news that it's looking to sell about 32% stake in Bharti Infratel. Mr. Tulsian, I want to ask you about Bharti Airtel, but before that, let's get some 9-10 calls going as well. Ashwini, what would your 9-10 call be?
See, 9-10 rupee is gapping up and, it's not closing the gap, plus from a strong support. So, again, rupee sensitives could outperform today, as well as, early morning you are looking for CESC, which is a buy with a stop of 710, target of 735.
Take your point on rupee. Everything was going for it.
Yeah.
Crude close to 55, a giant opening up of ECB limits. And the currency, if anything, has weakened. So that's telling you something that the charts have already told our chartists. Mitesh, you guessed that right. The 69.70 proving to be a resistance for the currency. What's your call? 9-10?
Lata, I think I will choose Tata Motors. After a long time, there is a sign of a reversal. So being extremely oversold, there could be a quick bounce back here. Buy with a stop at 173 and look for 185 as the first target.
Okay, and Prakash, what about you?
I think I'll go with Equitas. Can climb to around 132 zones, stop below 120 Equitas.
Okay, those are some 9-10 calls coming in. Mr. Tulsian, I wanted your view on Bharti. I mean, it's going to sell about 30% stake, 32% in Bharti Infratel, raise some money there. But the stock has not done anything for investors. You expect any upsides here?
See, Sonia, whenever you see a company selling their investments just to finance the losses or maybe the capex is not a good sign. So naturally, Bharti Airtel is forced to mobilize the funds, and that's what they are looking to sell, maybe 30 to 33% stake in Infratel for about 15,000 crore. But if I just take a call quickly on Infratel, in fact, that is seen to be quite an interesting space. Infratel is now, getting merged with the Indus Tower, and the combined entity will be having about strength of about 165,000 towers. Bharti Infratel is holding 40,000 towers. Indus is holding 125,000 towers, in which Bharti Infratel is again having 42%. So instead of taking a call on Bharti Airtel, rather I will be focusing more on Bharti Infratel going forward, because that will become a tech support, or maybe the tower company purely catering to the telecom stocks going forward, having seen good potential rather than Bharti Airtel.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Tulsian, for joining us with your opinion on a range of things. We will, of course, touch base with you at closing bell. Sanjeev, before we let you go, as Ashwini has been saying, the cost of capital falling has made a large number of mid-caps more attractive. Where is IIFL training its guns?
So, 4-5 stocks. Firstly, Ashok Leland in the four-wheeler space, we think the selling was overdone. It will become a very good proxy play on the revival in capex. We think the LCV, MCV market will see a huge bump up before the budget. We are very bullish on CG Power as a small cap, where they are in the process of reducing their debt by selling assets in Europe. Their local business is doing extremely well. We are also very bullish on the gas utilities, and MGL stands out there. 840, 850 is where we've been bullish. We think you could get 1,000 rupees on that. NBCC and Nagarjuna Construction are two construction plays where we think most of the weakness may have played out, and they will be very good proxy for some of the core developments and some of the order inflows on sale of road assets and infrastructure building in 2019.
Okay, that's a wealth of opinion and stocks that you've given us, Sanjeev. Thanks a lot for joining us. Just 50 seconds left to go.
Can I get a word edgeways? Yeah. Indian Oil is interim dividend and ex-buyback.
Okay.
That's why it's down 5%. An interested viewer has pointed out that it's It's this news that's keeping it 5 rupees down.
Okay, so that's an important observation on Indian oil. But the PSU banks could be the big flavor of the morning. Anything that you would trade? I mean, apart from what we've spoken about in the PSU banking space?
For me?
Prakash, yeah.
I think I could look at Bank of Baroda. Possible we could see an up move here because it still is into buy zone. A fresh buy has started. Target on the upside 122, 123 is possible.
Okay. All right, that's 18 seconds to go. Once again, let's pull up the Asian indices just to give an indication that, we are doing very well at this point in time. If it's minor losses, really, over there, the losses are a bit more pronounced. But just remember, the rupee started weak. So there is a niggling worry over there. There goes the bell, and the first rates are a little weaker only compared to pre-opening. It's about 0.15 down, 16 down. We thought we would be about 10 down. We are 16 down on the Nifty and 45 down on the Sensex, 36,386. So not much by way of a loss. It's IOC which is pulling it down a bit, and that's only because it's ex-interim dividend and ex-buyback. The financials are still doing well. Indiabulls is leading the pack, and so is Bharti Airtel because of the news that it's not going to dilute any shares. It's only going to sell off its stake in Bharti Infratel. So at the moment, the investors are relieved. 1.4 up. HP is up about 1%. Bajaj Finance, Bajaj Auto, IndusInd Bank. So largely the financials are doing well. Yeah. IndusInd Bank, Indiabulls and Bajaj Finance heading that list. IndusInd Bank as well. Bajaj Finserv doing well with about 0.5% in terms of gains. And IT companies, Ashwini, please note, Tech Mahindra is up about 0.5%. In fact, I don't think there's too much of a cut in IT stocks. Okay, Infosys is down 1.7. And then there is DRL, HDFC, Coal India, Eicher Motors, UPL, TCS, which are all up, down about 0.5%. Net, the Nifty is delicately balanced between the reds and the greens. It's actually flat, down 20 points.
And not bad, right? I mean, given the global situation, we are holding on, and how? So much resilience. The mid-caps are in fact in the green right now, and the advance decline ratio is pretty solid, 2:1 in favor of advances. It's led a lot by the PSU banks, so Central Bank of India, PNB, Bank of India, that whole lot. Union Bank up about 1%. Of course, PSU Bank recapitalization, the whole push there is giving an impetus to these stocks. NBFCs too, Indiabulls Housing Finance continues its up move, but in the broader markets you have DHFL that's looking pretty good. I think I saw some tire stocks also doing well. Balkrishna Industries is up another 1% You have some fertilizer stocks, Chambal Fertilizers, that's in the green. Just take a look at some of these news-based stocks though. Jet Airways, nothing conclusive coming out of that meeting, and Naresh Goyal does not want to give up his controlling stake. So Jet Airways not moving too much. But in any case, crude has been on a downtrend, so some of these stocks have been holding up. Interglobe Aviation as well has been one of the big movers. Some real estate stocks doing well this morning. Indiabulls Real Estate up almost about 2% or so, but largely it is the PSU banks that are holding up in the broader markets, and the mid-cap index now up about 0.3%. Ashwini, not a bad opening considering the global situation. At this level, 10,930, what would the call be?
So again, you can't do much here because we are basically again overextended, and things can turn. You can have a good opening which gets sold down into. So it's basically individual stocks, because as I speak, this Nifty Junior is in the green. So you have to look for smaller stocks. I think PNB is something that people can look at. It's up almost 3%, and this sort of a gap up opening above yesterday's high often tends to get follow through. So basically it's PSU banks, PNB particularly, and maybe even Bank of Baroda.
Okay, yeah, those are the two guys we didn't know would be getting the capital. So I guess there is a little bit of extra investor interest over there. We have thrown a lot of good news at bonds and as well as at the rupee, in terms of crude and in terms of the liquidity that's been given into the system. That is, of course, for the bond market. But yields are not falling below 7.27. Actually, at the moment, it's 7.28. Likewise, the rupee is not strengthening beyond 69.70. So we just have to keep that in mind, that there are some resistances coming over there. And if that rally doesn't continue, then we have to ask few questions about the equity rally as well, though of course all of them move on other parameters as well. Mitesh, what's your call now at 9:10? At 9:15? the index and any individual stocks?
See, index, Lata, we haven't got any kind of dip to, possibly add on to long positions. So for the time being, wait it out. But on stock side, I think there are a couple of observations. BHEL has managed to get past 71 with a gap. So that should see good follow through for the next few days. I would be a buyer there with a stop below 70 or 69.75 and look at targets close to about 76. And Century Textiles is also showing good momentum early in the day with the stop just placed about a couple of points below today's low. I think that can be a buy trade as well.
Okay, by the way, PVR has been hitting new highs, and once again that stock has made a fresh high today. Lots of big releases. It's the end of the year.
There's a board meeting as well, I think, for fundraising.
Yeah, that there is. And also they've opened up a couple of new multiplexes as well. So PVR is in the news for a lot of reasons. Prakash Gaba, any thoughts on, how to trade this stock? I mean, it's been moving only in one direction and that's upwards.
Yeah, it's been up for a while, no doubt about it. But today's, I don't like the tail up in the upper regions. So I would say still up as long as we have around 1,580 holds on that PVR. So far good. We can see higher levels up there. But I really like few other stocks. In fact, I would look at Mahindra & Mahindra. That looks good. I think it's heading up. Target on the upside, perhaps 630. Even one could look at Lupin. Lupin looks like it's starting to go up, and possible target on the upside is around 800.
Okay, gentlemen, as we bid goodbye to you after the first round of questions, the markets are actually in the green, and it's two stocks in the green for one in the red. So Indian markets defying the global bears with some gusto at this point in time. The Nifty and the Sensex are flat. Nifty is down 12 points. That's not saying much at all. So clearly the domestic factors are countering the global bearishness, and how. This is for the 8th day in a row, I think, that this outperformance is coming since last Tuesday, when we had the double whammy of a governor resigning and the ruling party losing in 3 states. After the bottom of 10,300, we have shown tremendous outperformance. With that backdrop, let's invite our market master for the morning, Andrew Holland, CEO of Avendus Capital Alternate Strategies. Good morning, Andrew. Pleasure having you with us. If Anuj were here, he would have started off with all those football questions with managers. I'm not abreast with all that. So I'm going to shoot football questions about stocks to you. Indian outperformance, how long can this continue?
I think it will. Listen, we've got this Goldilocks kind of scenario at the moment with bond yields and the rupee. And the expectations, I think, going into the year was that into 2019 should be that the government will do, whether it's populist measures, I'm not sure, but we'll try and kickstart the kind of consumption spending, particularly in the rural areas. So I think the backdrop for the next 3 months is quite positive for the Indian markets, and then of course we'll have our elections. But that doesn't take away there's going to be volatility, and I've said before to you, I'm more worried about developed markets than I am emerging markets, and I think the problems are going to emanate from developed markets, particularly in the US, where I think the Fed having increased rates again, and whilst he was very dovish, that pain will now start to be seen in the corporate sector, who are sitting on $6 trillion of corporate debt, of which half of it is in BBB. So it doesn't take a lot for one of those companies to face some problems. So I think those are kind of headwinds that the developed markets are going to face going into 2019. I'm not even talked about the trade war with China yet. And that means that global markets are going to remain under pressure. It will give us opportunities, I think, over the next 3 months to pick up some good quality stocks, because we will get hit in some of this turmoil, but that's the opportunity. And I think whilst I can tell you all the negatives about developed markets, I'm looking at the opportunities that our markets will provide us, as we kind of follow some of these markets down. We haven't done so far, because I think India is seen as again as a defensive kind of country in terms of trade wars or what's happening in developed markets. But also I think because of the big change at the RBI, with maybe a more business-friendly RBI governor.
Okay. Andrew, hi, good morning. I think Lata was on point, right? Yeah. She wanted to ask you about Marina sacking, but I mean, as an Arsenal fan, I was really disappointed because United was performing so badly under him, and now with him gone, they may just get, reinvigorated. But anyway, your thoughts on which way this is going to head?
Well, it's more exciting. I mean, the Manchester United news is more exciting than Brexit at the moment. So, you know, I can only hope. It's a bit like, you know, that if I kind of link it to the markets here, you know, we can only rise from here, right? It can't be it can't be so bad. So we'll get back to challenging you again. Don't worry.
Okay. So from a market standpoint, then you think it's only going to get better from here? I mean, that seems to be a consensus view now that 2019 will be much better than 2018. If that is the case, then from a long-term investor standpoint, how do you approach it?
So I think, you know, if I think about it on the longer-term basis or even medium-term basis, here's what we're thinking. One is, you know, the next 6 months, don't forget, are still going to be volatile, but look for the opportunities in that volatility to pick up the quality stocks. I'm only talking about large caps here. You know, after the elections, if it's, you know, there's no kind of real problems on that front, then I think the private capex cycle will pick up in the second half of 2019. So that will give a fillip to earnings going into, you know, into 2020. So I'm still looking at 7.5% GDP growth, 15 to 20% earnings over the next 2 to 3 years, and you know, and the big stories are going to remain FMCG, private banks, in that real order. And then, you know, along the sides, and we talked about this before, is, you know, renting PSU banks, which has been a good renting period over the past week or so. You know, continue to look to do that over the next 6 months. And of course, if the capex cycle is to pick up, then industrials and capital goods companies will come into play as well. It's a little bit early because obviously the elections, you know, could stymie that if there's any kind of messy coalition or there's a problem where companies then will sit on their hands again until, you know, things become clearer.
Okay. Well, you know, Andrew, I'm still grappling with our outlier status when global indices are falling. We thought that we had gotten disconnected even in 2008 for a long time, late 2007 and 2008, when global indices and Wall Street indices were falling. We just thought, you know, we have a momentum of our own. But ultimately, we caught up with the global trend. Is that going to be a worry at all for you? I mean, let me just add a bit. There's a fundamental difference because the Fed is contracting its balance sheet. The RBI is expanding its balance sheet. So while liquidity is contracting in other markets, in India, it's flowing free. So yes, there is a fundamental difference, but can we be out of step with the global markets for long?
No, which is why I'm saying I think if global markets, say, were to fall or continue falling, then we'll get dragged down. There's no doubt about it, because the risk of trade will come. But, you know, in that fall that we see, that's the opportunity, because, you know, what I see from the US now, we can talk about whether it's going to go in recession 2019 or 2020, but it will at some point go into a downturn. And it's the corporate sector that's got the problems, not the financial sector. And I think this time it's different in terms of, you know, where the pain's going to come from. Therefore, if it's a corporate earnings problem or a debt problem, then yes, it will have an impact on some of the banking stocks, but it's not going to bring you know, to the floor like it did in 2007, 2008. So I think it's a different way of kind of, you know, looking at this risk. Going forward, so we will get dragged down, but those, I think, are the opportunities that we need to you know, kind of take into account and not be so fearful at that time. You know, India, as you know, is, you know, we're either super bullish or super bearish. There's no in between, right?
Yes, a country of extremes. But it is a good market, actually. The mid-cap index has picked up almost about 0.5% now. A lot of consumer staple companies are doing pretty well today. Jubilant Foodworks is up almost about 1.5%. A couple of banks like Bandhan Bank doing quite well. Andrew, I wanted your thoughts on how to approach autos in 2019, because there is a slowdown definitely. I mean, Maruti has cut their estimates to 8% growth this year versus, you know, a double-digit growth earlier. You think it's just going to be a temporary blip, and is this a good time to be accumulating your favorite auto leaders?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously you have to be very selective. It's obviously like a Maruti now would be benefiting from the rupee appreciation. So, you know, it gets a bit of a tailwind behind it for the time being in terms of margin improvement. But, you know, we're coming off very, very high growth rates. So, you know, it's a slowdown from higher growth rates rather than it's a real, you know, big problem. I think also the MBFC problem that we had obviously, you know, pushed up interest rates in the very short term, and that I think helped defer some of the purchases. But I listened to what Maruti said the other day, that, you know, up until the elections, you know, things are usually slower. So, you know, let's work on that basis. But what I do feel is that if the government gets that consumption, you know, going in the rural area, then you could see a pickup in the second quarter of the financial year for these companies. So maybe it's a one quarter kind of you know, bit of pain for them, or slowdown from the heady growth rates. But it's not a sector I want to be you know, kind of short on it. It's always going to provide you good opportunities, because everyone has different products at different times, and therefore market shares can change, and that's what you look to play in this sector.
Okay, you know, Andrew, two brokerages told us that probably in 4 years' time we are going to see power capacities being inadequate. At the moment, of course, they are in such surplus that they're going to the bankruptcy courts and nobody's buying them because they're so indebted. But the argument is that there has been no investment in power for such a long time, and as demand grows at the clip of 6.5 to 7% CAGR power demand, then you know, the supply will catch up at some point in time. Would you go long on something like a BHEL, you know, considering that already L&Ts of the world have started rising?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Let the supply you know, be met first before I start looking 4 years ahead. So I'm not sure I'd buy into that. I think I'm more of a buyer into the private capex cycle starting to pick up in the second half of the year. You know, the RBI told us that capacity utilization is running at 76%. So if you're going to, you know, if there's a stable government, you know, sometime next year when the elections are finished, then obviously, you know, companies will have to go out and start building new capacity at some point, and I think that's the second half. So that's what I think is going to be the way I'd play the kind of the whole capex cycle, rather than think about whether that supply is going to be met by demand in 4 years' time.
All right. Well, Merry Christmas to you in advance. I hope you're going to London to celebrate Christmas, or at least getting out of the city.
Yes, no, I'm going off to Geneva and London for the Christmas and New Year period. So let me also wish you a very Merry Christmas to you and all your viewers, and a very happy and prosperous New Year.
Not to Manchester?
No, I'm waiting for the new manager.
All right. I thought you'll throw your hat in the ring. Thank you very much, Andrew. Have a great 2019 yourself and everyone at home.
That's going to be fun, right?
Thank
Christmas
you.
in London. I mean, it's the best time to be in that city.
So.
All right. Well, all we can do is hope for now. So let's move on and talk about some other things. LME aluminum prices have fallen to 16-month lows after the US said it would withdraw sanctions on Russian aluminum producer Rusal. TK Chand, the chairman and managing director of NALCO, joins us now to talk about what the impact of this would be on prices. Mr. Chand, thanks so much for joining us. What are your own thoughts, sir? Will lifting the sanctions on Rusal impact global aluminum prices, or do you think the prices have bottomed out?
But look, right now the prices level are, as you rightly told, it is 16-month low, and it is at the critical cost level. I don't think that it will move down below. And whatever reaction market has already last 2 to 3 months, this is in the news that America is going to ease the sanction against the Rusal, and that market has already adjusted to that. And when this news came, also market has reacted by a marginal correction of around $20 to $30. So as far as downward pressure on the level of price is there, it will not be there. But one impact definitely it will be there, that upward pull will not be there. Because had the sanction been there, then definitely Rusal controlling around 6.3% of the aluminium production in the world and around 5.9% production of aluminum in the world, there would have been some supply disruption and there would have been a strong upward move in the prices. But that factor will not be there. But as far as present level of price is concerned, I don't think that it will have any further impact on that.
So it says $1,900 for LME aluminum. That's a 16% fall. But it is an 80% fall as far as alumina is concerned. Where is it now, the alumina price, the last shipping that you did?
Yeah, we did the last shipping with $404. And right now, alumina prices level is around $410 to $415. It is moving like that. And I hope that in the coming days, 2 to 3 factors are there which will help alumina prices in the new year to move up. Because for the last 2 to 3 months, if you see, there has not been much of buying of alumina in the market because of the uncertainties that was prevailing in the alumina market. And smelters have already adjusted their inventory, what was there. Now we have reports that various smelters across the world, their stocks have depleted. So we expect that in the new year, and more particularly after Chinese New Year, there will be a lot of buying spree of alumina that will help the prices. And second factor which are likely to help prices, that in northern China there are reports that supply position of bauxite has become tight, and that may increase the bauxite prices. That will also have an impact on alumina prices. In addition, if you look at the critical raw material, that is the caustic soda, its prices have, though it has moderated, but still it is firm. That's why we expect that these factors will combine, and alumina prices in the coming year, that will move up. There may not be a very spike in the alumina prices, but it will move up.
Okay, so the latest shipment is at $404, you said, per ton. But because of the move that we've seen in prices, should we expect the margins to fall in the second half of the year from that 28% that you've seen in Q2?
Yeah, but as far as margin in second half, definitely since alumina prices have come down and aluminum prices have come down, there will be a fall in the margin. But two things in our case it will be helping. One is that power we were importing from the grid and we are paying a lot against that. Now the coal situation has completely eased out, and now the power import has stopped. That will help. And critical raw materials like caustic soda, CT pitch and CP coke, these 3 critical raw material prices have started moderating. And we hope that these 2 factors will help, but nevertheless, there will be some decline in the margin.
Can you tell us what the extent of the decline could be? I mean, earlier you were even trading at, you were even working with about 15-16% margins. So from this 28% level, how much could the fall be in the second half?
In first half, we are having a EBITDA margin of around 31 to 32%. We are expecting that in the second half, the margin will come to around 22%. Overall in the year, it will be somewhere around 26 to 27% margin against the last year's margin of around 18%.
Okay. The rupee depreciation was a tailwind for you. Now it's appreciated again. Net this quarter, are you in the money or out of the money because of the dollar?
Yeah, the dollar impact is always there because 1 rupee down means generally we gain around 157 crores in a year. In a month it works out to around 12 to 13 crores. So once the rupee goes up, that advantage will not be there. But our assumption while calculating had always been rupee at 68. So therefore, against our assumption, still rupee is ahead.
That point is taken. You know, there are too many people, even in government, who believe that a strong rupee is an indication of strong India. I never tire of saying that, you know, it's actually helpful if there is a gentle depreciation of the rupee. It helps a lot of Indian companies.
Yeah, correct, right.
Yeah. Mr. Chand, I wanted to ask you about the power situation and therefore your total output as well. You know, we are now hearing of power being more easily available, but prices have gone up. What's the situation as far as that cost is concerned and availability and output in both alumina and aluminum?
As far as NALCO is concerned, you know that we are power sufficient. We produce our own power, and because of the difficulty in getting coal, last 3 or 4 months we have been keeping our 2 units shut down and bringing power from the grid. But now that the coal situation has completely eased out, so we are now not importing. So power price, etc., will have no impact on us. But yes, as far as the aluminium sector is concerned, it is highly power intensive, and it has an impact when its prices increase, because the cost of power in the cost structure is around 40% weightage.
So what is the output likely to be this quarter, since coal and power issues are sorted out? Will you do much better in terms of volume compared to last quarter?
Yeah, we are expecting that in this quarter and as well as up to the end of this financial year, we will be definitely improving our production as against the last year. It may be around 25 to 30,000 ton more than the last year production.
Okay, so in terms of the global situation, just before we let you go, what is the situation currently, both with respect to aluminum and alumina? Is there a deficit that we are looking at in the global markets?
In 2018, there has been a deficit in aluminium and alumina, both the market. But this deficit has been in a particular period. That's why even if we say that over a year there has been deficit, still the prices have gone down, because at a particular point of time the position becomes surplus, particular point of time position becomes deficit. So that is the main reason. But overall in 2018 it has been a year of deficit. But in 2019 we are expecting that total production of aluminium will be somewhere around 64 million ton, and consumption will be somewhere around 65.5. That means around 1.5 million ton shortage will be there, and that is always natural actually. And as far as alumina is concerned, production may be to the tune of 124 to 125 million ton, and consumption will be on that way. A marginal shortage of alumina will be there. So global market in 2019 will be characterized by more stability, sustainability, and less of uncertainty. That is always better for the industry, because under that environment consumption will increase. Otherwise there will be a wait and watch policy by the buyers.
Yes, sir. Take your point entirely. It was a pleasure speaking with you, Mr. Chand. Thank you very much for giving us your view on several issues, from output to prices to the global scenario. Hope you have a very good 2019, you and everyone at NALCO.